My name is Ted Hall. I am at the University of Michigan. In the world, we are 6 time zones west of Central Europe in the southeast corner of the state of Michigan in the United States, and I am in a building called the Duderstadt Center on the Ann Arbor North Campus. This building opened in 1996, intended to be a very interdisciplinary facility. All manner of students from every department on campus have equal access to all the facilities in this building. And the first virtual reality cave was installed in 1997, so pretty early in the history of these things. This was the state of the art of head-mounted displays back in 1997. Obviously, we couldn't mount this thing to our head. Flat panel LED displays didn't exist yet, or at least they weren't common. It was still heavy CRTs, and so at the left end of that fake space boom was this big heavy CRT that had to be counterweighted at the right end of the boom. And you'd hold this thing up to your face, and it sort of gave you a 360-degree sphere of immersion, but very narrow field of view and obviously not very comfortable. So the advantages of caves, even in the early days, are pretty obvious, and I'll sort of go through bullet points on that later. But this was our first cave in 1997. This was before I joined the lab, so I'm guessing at the screen resolution. I've heard it was low, and 768 pixels was pretty common in those days, so I think that's what it was. Tethered tracking system, you see the wires coming down from the ceiling, and a single primary viewer, and I'll say more about what that means in a few minutes. In 2006, it was largely rebuilt. The screen resolution went up to 1024 pixels squared. Now tetherless tracking using an optical tracking system. And so, and a single primary viewer. So the primary viewer in this case is the man on the right, and you see the antennas on the glasses, and they just have shiny reflectors on the end that are tracked by an infrared tracking system. All of the perspectives are tuned for his point of view. The secondary viewer, the woman standing to the left, sees stereo. She has 3D glasses on, but her perspective isn't quite perfect because she's not tuned. There's only one set of perspectives, and they're tuned for the man in this case. So the typical protocol is to let the tourist or the guest or the one less familiar with the environment have the good point of view, and someone who's more familiar with it can deal with a little bit of skew. So this was an architectural review for an actual hospital under construction that was done in our so-called cave here. Fast forward 15 years, those projectors are failing. We had a Frankenstein surgery on one to get a 15-year-old projector back into working condition. 2 years later, it was dying for the 3rd time. This would have been a very beautiful Unreal Engine scene in the cave, except that right wall is all full of green streaks because the projector is failing again. But fortunately, that year we got new projectors. And we also got a new sign, which was nice. So we call our cave the MIDEN, which we pronounce it MIDEN, Michigan Immersive Digital Experience Nexus. And now we have slightly higher resolution, 1080 pixels squared, tetherless tracking, but now we have 2 primary viewers, 2 dual primary viewers. If you look at the glasses that they're wearing, both sets of glasses have those reflective markers. And so they both have a correct perspective, which makes it much more collaborative, a more shared space, a more shared experience. So these are our vital statistics. As I mentioned, we call this the MIDEN, and that's out of respect to the Electronic Visualization Laboratory at the University of Illinois at Chicago. They are the inventors of the cave, and cave, strictly speaking, is trademarked by them. There's a link there that sort of says Cave TM, that's ours. So, you know, we're using the cave concept, but we're not using their parts list necessarily. We're not using their software. We do our own software development, so we thought we should call it something else. But generically, it's a cave. Our volume is 10 feet cubed. 10 feet is about 3 meters, just over 3 meters. Rear projection on 3 walls, left, front, and right. Front projection on the floor from above. And frame sequential stereo, which is typical for caves. We can configure our cave for single viewer, 2 eyes, and the projectors would push 120 images per second, which is pretty typical for caves. And if we did that, we would have 2,160 pixels squared. So we would have 4 times as many pixels, and each eye would get twice as much light. But we really like this dual view mode that we paid a lot to get the dual view mode. The projectors are pushing 240 images per second, which is enough for 60 images per second per eye times 4 eyes. So 2 viewers and 2 eyes per viewer. The price we pay for that, besides dollars, is we have lower resolution and less light in each eye. But as I mentioned before, it allows a very sort of shared collaborative experience. The advantages of caves over head-mounted displays in general. You have 270 degrees of horizontal field of view if you're standing in the middle facing forward. The headwear is much lighter. It's much less cumbersome than head-mount displays. If you turn your head, there's less change in the projected image. It's only a little change in parallax, how my eyes project onto that screen, versus a head-mounted display where the entire image has to be sheared pretty severely. And so it's less provocative of simulator sickness. It's less disorienting and easier acclimation because you can see yourself in the space. It's less isolating, more collaborative. Even if it's single viewer, you can at least see the other people in the space. You're talking to humans, not talking to avatars. And you can see your natural body in that space, which gives you a better confidence that the virtual world is scaled properly. So long story short, the technology gets out of the way with a cave much more so than in a head mount display. And I like to say that with caves, we can use VR to teach versus teaching VR, which is what often happens with a head mount display. We tell people that come in to teach with the head mounts that don't even plan to teach anything for the first 30 minutes because you're just going to be getting people oriented to those displays. So as I mentioned, with the dual view, it's nice because they both have the correct field of view. These were 2 first-time users in the Maiden. Neither one of them had ever been in a cave before. And within minutes after putting the glasses on, they could take the game controller and fly through this thing. And they each have, again, the correct perspective for themselves. This was a study of actually from a professor of nursing who wanted to study visual cues in assisted living facilities for residents with poor eyesight and poor memory. What visual cues help them navigate these spaces? But that same environment was borrowed by a professor of architecture who teaches lighting and acoustics. And he came in here with this mannequin head all instrumented with light meters and sound meters and measured what are we projecting and how realistic is it? Architecture again, architecture in context. This is a multi-year project called Empathy and Point Clouds. The philosophy is if you can't bring the designer to the site, bring the site to the designer. So the professor goes with a team of students out to a site, they capture these LiDAR point clouds and then bring it back into the facility for students to put their buildings in the context of the site they're designing for. Physiology, we can slice through a visible human, a virtual cadaver. We can slice through a baby mammoth cadaver that was captured with a CT scan. The original specimen is in a museum in Siberia someplace, uncut, but because of a CT scan, we can slice through it and see all the anatomy. And that avatar in the back is me from 1,600 kilometers away, captured by a Kinect. And I kind of think that's a nice picture. We can slice through an automobile and look at all of the mechanical stuff in a modern electric automobile. This is velocity vectors in an internal combustion engine during the intake stroke. So we can shrink ourselves down to fit within one cylinder of an engine. We can shrink ourselves smaller and look at protein structures. We can look at the relationships between diseases and gene regulation. So it's not even a physical structure. It's a conceptual informatic structure, but not something that actually represents a protein or a molecule or anything. It's just relationships. And we can grow ourselves to a godlike scale and look at the universe. This was an art student project, and we've had several art students who do their senior thesis in virtual reality because it's something that they cannot build. They can't paint it, they can't install it, they can't sculpt it because it's this vaporous sort of glassy thing. And I'm going to stop there and turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much to you, Ted. So I think what we discussed was possibly best to do here is just to make sure everyone gets their questions answered because we have quite a few speakers, is to do a couple of minutes of a Q&A before we go to the next person. I think that's kind of easiest here. So with that in mind, do we have any questions for Ted here? I believe, let's see. If anyone would also like to actually just turn their microphones on and ask them, that's also an option, because it takes a while to put it in the chat.
Well, you can also reflect and ask your question later.
Yeah, because it's sometimes interesting to compare, for sure. Okay, let's do that. I think that's possibly for the best here, because it is nice to also have a comparison. So with that in mind, if you do not mind, we will go to our second speakers, who are Mirjam and Jeroen from Inholland University of Applied Sciences.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me share my presentation with you.
Nou, jij zegt, ik wil naar de afdeling.
Sorry, now stop sharing. Try again.
Laten we het maar gewoon doen. Het gaat goed met me. Ja.
Can everybody see the presentation?
Yep,
Okay.
we can see it. Okay.
Cool. Okay. Well, some quick introduction first. My name is Jeroen Bottema. I work at the Inholland University of Applied Sciences. We're a large university, 7 campus locations in the west of the Netherlands. I'm an information manager, and I'm partly responsible of implementing our immersive room. We don't call it a cave, we call it an immersive room or a simulation room. And I'm joined by my colleague Mirjam van Leeuwen. She's currently one of our early adopters of the immersive room. And later on in this presentation, she will show us one of her specific cases where we can see the students and her in action in the immersive room. So, but first, let me introduce the immersive room that we currently have built in our campus location in Amsterdam right now. So I will show you a small video and just talk over it. You see here 2 students doing, I think, CPR, Mirjam? Yeah. And our immersive room is a physical room where students are surrounded, where you can see by a combination of audio, visuals, and real objects to create a lifelike atmosphere, an immersive experience. It's 3 walls, you can see, not on the ceiling and not on the floor, which is with sounds projected on the wall, and we have also, which you'll see later on, a control booth from where we can monitor things. And the walls are actually touch sensitive, so it's possible to have interaction with objects or with hotspots that are projected on the wall. And we project all kinds of 360-degree video realistic situations or virtual environment content. So this is what the immersive room is. And what's so interesting about this immersive room is that you can combine projection with real objects in a room, which Mirjam will show an example of later on. So yeah, the immersive room was built by a combination of 2 companies, Kinley and Secta Immersive, who helped us installing this the immersive room. So here you can see the setup. On the left, we see the 3 beamers, high quality beamers that project the images on the wall. You can see the control booth with all kinds of functionalities, also debriefing functionalities. We can record sessions and stream the sessions to other locations as well. So that's possibilities. We can have a voice over audio control. So you can also gather with a few students, watch through the window to observe other students. So there's possibilities. And we have how do you call that? A content management system where we download our 360 content and interactive virtual reality content. So that's the setup of the room. The context of why we wanted to have an immersive room, well, actually, it's because we have a new campus building. So that's also, it has to be modern. So that was one of the reasons that we were thinking about to develop all kinds of innovative spaces. But the immersive room was also important for other reasons. And we really wanted to have more ways how we can introduce the workplace learning into our campus building. And with the immersive room, which is, we think, a part of extended reality, XR, we can create all kinds of new possibilities for workplace learning and simulation practices. That's the immersive room is really, for us, it's really a way to develop a safe learning environment where students can practice and hone their skills. So that's one of the main reasons why we wanted an immersive room in our new campus location. So there are all kinds of affordances for teaching and learning, which we are currently in the process of researching and trying to explore. We do lots of experiments in this phase of the implementation of the immersive room. But the most important thing is what I said earlier, is this is develop a safe practice and feedback environment for students, where they can train their basic and technical skills, but also critical thinking skills, conversational skills, introduce students with a realistic viewpoint of the professional workspace, if it's not possible to go there, creating all kinds of shared experiences, and overall just for active learning and student engagement. That's really important. That's why what we try to do there. So there's Ted also mentioned you can make a comparison with why don't you use mounted headset displays or VR headsets. What we think is, and that's something we also do at our university, but why the immersive room is so interesting is that you can really create collaborative learning spaces. You can introduce more students can enter the immersive room and have an interaction also with each other and the content that is projected on the wall. You have a physical presence, which we think is really important. You can have interaction with the virtual objects projected on the walls, but also real objects and actors, for instance. So that is one of the interesting things of an immersive room, is to create also a collaborative space where students can collaborate with each other in interaction with what is projected on the screens. So Mirjam, I introduced you as one of the early adapters. Perhaps you can share with us a case that you are currently working on with your students, and I can help you with the video. You need to put your sound on.
Hi all.
Yeah.
I will shortly introduce the type of classes I give. I'm a mental health nurse and a teacher. And in mental health, a significant part of our job involves communication with patients. And that's why we dedicate a lot of attention in communication skills with our students. And for years, we are using trained actors to simulate real life situations. But in the last months, we also used the immersive room. And I would like to share with you my positive experience. We use it in a minor called complex mental health care, where we train students to handle more challenging situations with patients with a mental health crisis. For instance, communicating with people who are suicidal or have severe psychosis. And the use of the immersive room has proven to be very valuable. First of all, because of the room, students feel much more immersed in the scenario. It feels more real, and it's way more impactful in their learning. And also a striking thing is that when students feel stuck communicating with the patient in the training, they could always ask for a timeout to discuss the situation, get tips for moving forward. But since we are using the immersive room, we found that students didn't need the timeouts anymore. They realized they could cope on their own. So I think that's very positive. And previously, we practiced in a regular classroom and only could indicate in what type of environment the conversation would take place. For instance, well, this is, you're entering the apartment of a patient. Because of that, students had difficulty imagining the setting. And now the environment is very visible. And the dynamics between the client, the student, and the space is much clearer. And this is, it makes it much more easy to give feedback on aspects like physical distance and proximity. And I have a clip that is very showing this.
Yeah, let me.
Nou, jij zegt, ik wil naar de afdeling, laten we het maar gewoon doen, het gaat goed met me.
Ja, het gaat echt goed.
Maar ondertussen
You can talk over it, Mirjam.
Yeah.
Gefrustreerd en
Maybe you can
alleen maar
go to a minute.
collega daar staat.
Yeah, this is the minute.
Okay.
Kamer tegenkomen.
Because then you can clearly
als
see.
Niks.
Nee,
Gewoon
ik wil even
Now,
blijven zitten.
in this moment, you can clearly see the student how she maintains contact, how she follows the patient's movements, and keep an appropriate distance because of the safety.
Daar heb ik wat sigaretten.
Because it was an aggressive patient.
Dus in dat bruine kastje.
Ja.
So I think this is enough for now, Jeroen.
Gewoon in de gaten hebt hoe het allemaal zit. Nou, jij hebt helemaal niks.
And what you see now is also very important, because normally, previously, the students who were not involved in the communication, they were sitting around like in a circle watching the communication, and they had to take notes what happened, but we couldn't talk about it at the moment because the conversation was still going on. But now you saw me sitting in another room watching this conversation via a screen, and now we are able to talk about it live.
Yeah, let me see if I can show that.
Yeah.
Hoe kan ik dat hier?
So here.
Here. Yes, here you can see another student practicing, and I'm here in the back. And I can discuss lively the situation, and that's very important because the students watching have a big role now, because we can discuss what happens, and they don't have to take notes and remember the situation. And the last positive thing is we record the trainings, and so students can watch it back, and that's very important for their reflective capabilities. They see much more, get much more insight in their strengths and weaknesses. So yes, I'm very happy to use the immersive room in my trainings.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thank you, Mirjam. And you're one of the early adapters, and you're bringing other teachers along.
Yes.
So we're trying to have more, kind of like these learning practices available. We're currently evaluating the first phase of our project of the immersive room. We're now in the second year, and we're trying to evaluate, but we already see some impacts for teaching and learning from students and teachers, so they are very positive. We are really eager to improve on teaching and learning with the immersive room, and that's why we need more teachers and students that are using it. But we see a lot of positive effects already. Yeah, and that's it for the short presentation of our immersive room. I don't know if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you very much to the two of you. Yeah, we do. And we also have one for Ted again, but we'll go through the couple for you first, and then we might circle back for 20 seconds back to Ted at the end. I think that could work. But no, so first of all, in the chat, we have one from Dominic, I think for you, Jeroen, which is, what are you using for content capture for the display in the immersion room? Is it just regular 360 video cameras?
Yeah, it's so the technology or the content. So the content right now is mostly 360-degree video. And we are currently experimenting, developing all kinds of learning environments with Unity or other programs, but currently we are focusing on the content that came with the content management system of Secta Medical, which is the producer of the immersive room. It's come with a content management system, and there we can upload our 360-degree videos, and we can also share that with other institutes as well that also use the same content management system. So that's the currently the focus, but we're trying to hack the system by trying new things. But that's currently that's work in progress right now. Yeah.
No, perfect. And we have one more also. I'm not sure which one of you would like to take this between you, but what was the approximate cost of the immersion room setup?
Yeah.
How is the immersive audio system also configured and managed? I think
it's a high investment.
But yeah,
it's a high investment, and I can name numbers. It's like 200,000 euros for a room. So that's a high investment, including the hardware, the software, licensing fees, everything. And it's very important that when you implement this, that you think about the technical staff and the support staff of teachers. So that's really complicated, very complex. But it is a high investment, but currently worth it to have it at a university, also as a part of a sticky campus ID. So we would love to have the situation where students can also book the room, where they can train a specific scenario, record the scenario, and use that for their portfolios or all kinds of assessments. So there's all kinds of possibilities to make that investment worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And I think the one other half of that question, just before we move on, would be, how is the immersive audio system configured and managed?
I'm sure I'm afraid I can't answer that technical question. I'm sorry, but perhaps if I know the one who gave the question, I can look it up and email it.
Yeah, not a problem. The names are all in the chat, everyone's there. And I think we have one more for the peer review, which is, do you charge a fee for the use of the room, or how do you recoup that expense over time?
Yeah, so the investment was possible because we built a new campus. That was one of the main. So that was good fortune. So currently we're not users don't have to pay for using the room. So that's not necessary right now. No.
No, nice. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any other last questions they would like to ask just by turning the microphone on? Or, oh yeah, one more. So last one. Is the room used for research or for teaching and learning?
Teaching and learning currently. Also a bit of recreational stuff, of course. It's a great gaming room if you know how to use it. But it could also, and I would love to make some connections with research as well. So we are currently in conversation with a few researchers at our university who would love to try new things, also in combination with audio and visuals. That's also currently under discussion right now. So I think in the future, also researchers are very interested in using those kind of situations. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much to the two of you. Really appreciate that. Shall we now move on to our third speaker, who will be Wilhelm from the University of Applied Sciences, Südwestfalen. And again, we'll take a Q&A after this one. And Ted, we have not forgotten your question. We'll come back at the end. I think that makes most sense. So yeah, Wilhelm, whenever you're ready.
So, hello everybody. Hopefully you can see the presentation. Can you give me a short sign?
Yep, all good.
Okay, hello everybody with greetings from Iserlohn in Germany. My name is Wilhelm Hannibal and I'd like to give you some information about our cave concept at the University of Applied Sciences after 1 year in operation. I'm responsible as a professor in the field of mechanical engineering for machine elements, CAD applications, and I'm the speaker for automotive engineering of our destination in Iserlohn. And Iserlohn is about 20 kilometers in the south of Dortmund, so for the orientation. After some information for our selected cave conception, we will see examples of cave applications. The resonance of our colleagues is top 3. And as an outlook, I'd like to announce the next steps for the future. We decided to choose a 4-sided cave. You can see in the middle of the slide. The main arguments for this are listed in the table on the left side. These are first, the group suitability, where we can operate the cave presentation up to 10 persons with normal shutter glasses. The level of immersion is quite excellent for our use case for mechanical engineering purpose, and we use 2 3 chip laser beamers are in use for the floor presentation. When similar with the 2 other 3 beamers, the picture on the floor is projection by mirrors. You can see the mirrors or an impression of how the mirrors are working on the right on the picture here. We have a lecture hall that is directly connected to the cave presentation screen area, and that allows the combination of 2D presentations and 3D cave operation during the same lesson. Several presentation modes can be used, so for instance, that 3 different parallel projections are possible on the screens. Between these presentation modes, you can easily switch during the lessons. And also video conferences are possible at any time. So next, up to 10 people can experience virtual models simultaneously, and the shutter glasses for 3D visualization are in use. A person has a controller and leads through the presentation. That means that is very sensible that we can exchange VR presentation between head-mounted displays and the cave from any place in the world. And this will happen in both directions. And also a 3-side virtual reality projection is possible with 1 screen for standard simultaneous presentation. On this slide here we can see some VR models in use. First, we have a model of about 90% car. This extremely detailed reconstruction is done over 10 years with students. The total mock-up of the car geometry is based on a steel frame. Second, a complete combustion engine is in use. And for my tribology course, I have a complete VR model of a test rig for oil pumps in use. Especially here, you can fly inside the VR model to explain the oil pump design, what normally at the real test rig cannot be done. So if we come back to the car, you can have cross-section through the Super 7 that we choose here. And so, for instance, easily you can disassemble parts or components on this car. The software itself that we use is Up about 1 year use of this cave concept, we have about 100 events that have taken part. And diverse groups of different sectors have used the cave. Lecturers and students with their own VR models, then groups of the university administration, business and industry companies, and we will open the cave in future even for companies who can have the opportunity to use it. And even the politics situation is very interesting for us just to see this new situation. Let me come to some advantages and disadvantages of this new XR lab. First, promotion of technical understanding means the 3D visualization of complex products exchange students' technical comprehension. Efficient knowledge transfer, as multiple people can experience a virtual model simultaneously in the cave, learning content can be conveyed more quickly and effectively. Then with this situation, we have a reduction of motion sickness that normally occurs if you use standard head-mounted displays. Even people who are older will have this disadvantage. Further disadvantages here means we have a very user-friendly operation. The intuitive interface allowed visitors to quickly and independently run presentations. Hybrid learning means the setup enables the delivery of hybrid courses across multiple locations, in example, via Microsoft Teams or Zoom. Inspiring interest in technology, virtual method spark in the interest of prospective students in technical subjects. But ladies and gentlemen, there are also some disadvantages in this operation. So first, we need a full utilization of feature requires support from a trained staff member. And technical challenges means during operation, occasional technical issues may arise that can only be resolved by the lab technician. So for the first 3 months, we had some problems to get the system itself running. And if we would like to have a future perspective in the XR lab, first we will have expansion of educational contact. That means additional 3D models will be developed to establish virtual reality as a standard tool in the education, and we are therefore here concentrated in the field of mechanical engineering. VR collaboration means we will use the contact to other universities and to exchange our experience for the advantage of new VR applications. Even in this session here, we can see what other universities are doing that will be very useful for us. And the question a couple of minutes ago, research at the XR lab means in the coming years, we will have new research topics related to this technology, and we'll have new applications that we have to explore. Yeah, looking ahead means what kind of future perspectives of the XR labs will occur. The cave can be used for applications in architecture, in example, virtual walkthroughs of buildings, and in medicine. So just to figure out if this works, the cave itself was built in a CAD model, and we can walk through the cave, in the cave. That's the first test we have made. Space for business means the XR lab provides a space of companies to develop or present products. And especially in the field of mechanical engineering, we have learned that for developing things and to show it to other persons, the cave, let me say, usage is very excellent, even for people who are not so fit in, let me say, diving up into 3D models and so on. So you asked me to summarize 3 sentences. What have we learned? for us, very important is that we have this cave for mechanical engineering purpose, just in the education of engineers. So it's a very, really good new perspective. And that means that we can have up to 10 people that can be trained simultaneously and very effectively in this space in front of the screens. Between the various presentation modes and the cave operation used in the XR lab, we can switch at any time. So for instance, if you are working in a lesson and you have a teaching subject, you can shift between standard PowerPoint presentation and the XR mode very quickly. And that makes the education in the engineering field very effective. Yeah, up so far, thank you very much for your attention, and who likes to contact me, no problem, a presentation can be shared.
Yes, thank you very much, Wilhelm. Really, again, a very interesting one. We've got a lot of diverse presentations here today, which is great. I will go firstly, we have one question in the chat, so we'll go to this one in the chat, but if anyone else has any others, please feel free afterwards to turn on your mics. So the question in the chat is, so based on one of the images which you had shown, is it the case that people cannot actually enter the room, but that they stand in front of it?
Perhaps I will go back to the presentation if the time is.
Feel free. Yes, no problem.
Yes, if I can add to this, that it was the image on the right side where indeed there are something like 10 people looking at the yeah, that one, yeah.
Oh, this is a presentation for a public group, and normally you can go inside this area where the floor is.
Okay,
and if you go inside the floor where this area is, you have much better immersion. But when we will use the inside floor, we have special shoes to take care of the floor. The floor itself is very sensitive, but therefore the immersion is really excellent. This is just to present it to a public group in the public. Yes. So this is my colleague here with his blue shirt. He has this controller, and normally we are standing inside the area where the mouse is just reflecting here.
Yeah, I think that's how I know a cave. So I was a bit surprised about this picture, but thank you for the explanation.
Yes, but we were really surprised. The cave concept itself works just standing in front of. Even when you are sitting in the area about 5 or 10 meters behind, you can see with the shutter glasses the immersive situation. The concept itself that we chose here was we saw this in Berlin of the company Rolls-Royce, and we were really surprised with this situation that we have the opportunity to let a big group up to 10 person to take part in this presentation. That's really, really exciting, and that makes the situation very good for the education of students. This is the situation if I would come back to the... So this is the situation. Normally, that's a 5-sided or 4-sided cave that you find at any places. But therefore, the space inside is very narrow. If you have about 3 meters, you can take part, or you can have the immersion inside this room with about 2 or 3 persons. That's it. And the distance between these edges is about 10.5 meters. And the one screen is about 4 meters by 2.5 meters for the space of the... And the beamers itself that we use are 3-chip laser beamers, very sophisticated and cost-intensive. And the total investment, if you want to see here, is about 3.2 million euros.
Okay, perfect. I think, yes, I do believe that's all the questions for now. And again, we've got a moment or two at the end to come back round. So if you haven't had a moment yet.
Perhaps one sentence. If anybody has interest to visit us, feel free to come. We can exchange, we can show it to you, you can send us a model and you can have the view, or you can have it, the combination of head-mounted displays, even the combination so that perhaps Ted in Michigan has perhaps a 3D model in his head-mounted displays. He can transfer it via net and we can see it in our cave. So we are prepared for this communication. So students that are working, Ted, for instance, in the automotive field in Detroit, sometimes we have some students there, can have with a short equipment and head-mounted display, and we can connect both sides. That's an option we try to figure out. That's for instance very interesting for mechanical engineering exchange work.
Thank you for your kind invite, Wilhelm. I'm sure some of the people in the webinar would like to take you up on that. So we'll share your details after the event.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. No, really, thank you. And I think, as we say, any further questions or anything, we will come back at the end for Wilhelm and for all the other speakers who have already been.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've had a last-minute cancellation from the speaker who was going to go next from Coventry University. So Natasha will not be joining us. But with that in mind, we're going to go straight to our final speaker, who is Gert-Jan from the University of Groningen back in the Netherlands. So whenever you're ready, Gert-Jan, feel welcome to start.
Okay, do you see something?
Yep.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah, hello, my name is Gert-Jan Verheij, working for the University of Groningen. I have a background in technology, education technology, and will share some things about our 3D theater. If you have I hope it will go to the next. Yes, okay. You see here our building, and it's also a special story. First I think about the 3D theater and the cave. And that was the begin situation for the architect to make the whole building. So that's also the shape of the building was, the reason was our 3D theater. I will tell something very quickly about the equipment and the specs, but not so long. But the most important I like to share is the didactical use of VR apps in combination with the 3D theater. Oh, no. Okay, first I will go to our 3D theater. You can see the specs, so if you like to have them, take a picture or ask for me for the slides. It's a curved, and we can have a group of 19 students in one time. And if you like a very big group, we can have also 6 stands extra. If I go, we have done an upgrade last year, the last 2 years. We run this now from 2002. So it's now an upgrade that we have only the 3D theater. And first we had only a Linux cluster and within our own viewer, so that's very complex. Now we can use also Unreal Engine with the N-Display model. With a special new PC with a very big graphic card, we can run in one time 6 projectors, so we can now easily make application also for the theater. So that's the next big step for us, and that gives possibilities I will show later. But everybody was telling about caves. We've had also a cave in the beginning, but we closed it in 2020. And the reason was there were no requests for research even more. So we make the decision to upgrade our 3D theater, and we like also to use it in education. Before the theater and cave was only for research, but now we use the theater for research and education. But if you like to have some specs, you have it here. But now I like to tell about the new didactical model we use. We just the first experience we have done this September and October, and it's very simple. You have two steps. Step one is that you have an application on head-mounted display, and where you can make a model, and I will give an example later. So that's important. You make with a small group a model on a head-mounted display, and then you go to step two. More groups can make a model, but they have in the second step they have a presentation of the whole group. So you have around 20 students. And they present their model to their peers in 3D. And to present in 3D, yeah, you can have everyone can have their own head-mounted display, but it's very complicated. But it's easier to do with a 3D theater. I will show it in the context. First, in the application we have made, it's an archaeological application, and it grew up with a master student who visited us and with a very great idea. He liked to make a rebuild of an archaeological site in Greece. It was a tomb. You can see here at the background, that was the tomb. And on spot of that, you has to the different stones. And the story is, yeah, what will be the most, the best fitted face of this site? And if you are a student in archaeology, you have to think about it and to try. And mostly they do it in the field, but now we can do it. The first step in VR, they can do it by themselves. The first student has made 60 models of stones. He go to Greece. We give him a photo camera, and with photo camera 3 later on our cluster, he make the models with some support of us. And when he has the models, we make an engine in Unreal Engine. So you can place the stones on places where you like to have it. So you can make your reconstruction. So that's the view where you're looking to. You see the menu, and you can put the different stones on this way. So that's the first step of the didactical model. They do it in very small groups. You have to think about 3 or 4 students, but we have 20, so we have 5 groups. They do it in week 1. They make their model in around 3 hours, and the next week they come back and they discuss with the professor their results, and I will show a picture of it. So all of them are in our theater, and it has many things are the same as the situation of Wilhelm, only we have not a floor in front of here, but we have a curved screen. Everyone has also a shutter glass. You can see it, and there are some students in front of the room, and they tell about their solution, how they solved the puzzle of the top. And you can see this is the first solution, and they talk about it, how they think, what's the reason to make it on this way. And this will be a next one. This is another group of students, and they make this solution, and they discuss about this, and the results are much deeper than when you have a very short session when you are on the place. So that gives a more deeper learning. Some facts about our team. We are working with 5. Some facts, we make the applications by our own. We have 3D developers, a virtual artist, the 3D artist, and me. So that's our team. And we will also give you the opportunity to see the lab and also the 3D theater live at December 5. If you like to come, you can send an email to realitycenter@rug.nl. Okay, possible some question, but it's up to you how you like to organize it.
Yes, perfect. I was going to say also, once again, thank you for the invite to everybody. All the, as we say, all the emails and things are in the presentations, so you can reach out to anyone from there. Yeah, I think the best thing to do is, does anyone specifically have a question for Gert-Jan? And then we can open it after that to any other questions that anyone has about the other presentations.
I see Sophie has a question. Sophie, would you like to jump in? Feel free to ask. But if your mic doesn't work, I can read it out. Okay, maybe I will just read it out loud. So the question is, how do you interact with the content in the 3D theater? It looks like you can use gestures on one of the first pictures.
Yes, it's quite simple. In the theater, there's only one person. He has the control, so he has the opportunity to give the model turn it around, and the presenter say, "Oh, could you please go a little bit to the left or more to the right?" And on that way, everyone has the same view at the same moment, and that's one of the big things about the 3D theater, that everyone, sure, as an instructor, they see the same. And if you have a head-mounted display, you're not sure that they see the same things. But in the theater, you see everyone see the same thing, so you can explain some situation or solutions much better.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Does anyone have any questions? Let's just go for across the board for any of the previous speakers that you didn't get the chance to ask earlier. If not, as we say, not a problem. We have all of the contact emails in all of the different presentations. As people have said, please feel free to reach out. And also some things are sometimes easier, a bit like technical questions, to actually answer over, a separate moment to this in any case. But yeah, I will pass over to Dovie in just 1 second to wrap up, but just from myself, yeah, on behalf of myself and from XRER, thank you very much for having us and allowing us to organize this meetup with you. This was very, very nice. And for anyone who's curious about anything that we do, please feel free to reach out to me via the XRER website, and I can also put my my contacts in the chat. But no, thank you very much to everyone, presenters, and you who have just attended. Really lovely to see you all. And with that, I will pass back over to Dovie.
I just see that Dominic has a question for everyone, so maybe we can ask that question before we all move on to our next meetings. So what made you get involved in caves, immersive environments? So maybe we can go the same kind of order that we had the presentations today. So if you don't mind, Ted, could you take this one first?
I actually went to school to be an architect. All of my degrees say architecture. And before I finished my Master's of Architecture degree, I was hired by the Architecture and Planning Research Laboratory to develop software for computer-aided architectural design and building information modeling way back in 1980. And it was a career change for me. By the time I finished my MArch, I'd become a software developer. Again, starting with computer-aided design and then gradually morphing into more generic 3D modeling and visualization, and finally just a smooth transition into extended reality. I joined this facility in 2009 and the cave was already here. I knew such things existed. I didn't know I would ever have a chance to work with one, but it was here. And so it was one of the things that attracted me to this job, and I've done my best to keep it running in the past, well, 15, 16 years now. So, and, you know, for all the reasons we have a lab full of head mount displays. I'm not against head mount displays, but there are definitely advantages to a cave. And I think all of the speakers sort of hit on these same advantages. Especially at a big university like this, the students pay high tuition to come here, and they don't need to pay that tuition to get a consumer grade head mount display. They should get more for their money, and that more is a cave, which is behind that door there. It's something that they cannot get at home. They cannot buy that for themselves. I'll pass it to the next speaker.
Yeah, just a quick heads up. Our last speaker actually could join. But we will do the rounds now, and then we can to answer Dominic's question, and then we will finish with the last presentation. All of it a different order, but improvisation and these things make these things more interesting. So Mirjam and Jeroen, what made you get into caves and immersive technology?
Yeah, I think Mirjam has left already. I think she has a teaching. Yeah, for us, it's I think a couple of reasons, but I think the example that Mirjam showed is why it's interesting to get involved in immersive environments, because it really enhances simulation education in a very effective manner. And for instance, from the nursing faculty perspective, they really have a shortage of workplace learning situations. So this is really an interesting technology to get those to get the workplace into the campus and prepare students to training their skills, but also prepare them for real life situations. So that's why I think it's very interesting. Just new ways of developing, creating that safe learning environment, which is so important, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jeroen. Thank you for your answer. Wilhelm, you're next on the spotlight.
I think it's very important to understand complex geometry for all students in a group. Normally, they won't say that they will not understand this. And if you transfer this into the industry later on, a cave usage is very good for understanding the engineer models to perhaps to marketing or to sales experts, just to make clear what these benefits of the, let me say, technique is. And especially the example that I show you, where you see this test rig for oil pumps, you won't have a view into this structure. You can't explain it. And so for the lessons, it's very important just to see the test rig itself to explain how all these measurements is working in the field of mechanical engineering. Then you can go to the cave and explain it. And that makes it very, let me say, good for all groups in the company to understand what kind of technical products are in development, just to evaluate if it's sensible to develop this, to market it or not. And even the experience that about 70% of persons have not a real 3D immersion in their mind. They cannot have the immersion. For my education, I'm an engineer, and my first job was at Audi, and I designing parts of an engine, and later on I was responsible for a total engine of a V8 engine, and therefore it's very good to have the overview of the geometry of all parts and to understand in your group what your colleagues are doing for this. And that makes it even easier. And the real benefit you have then, you will make less mistakes in engineering. And these less mistakes will have the opportunity not to spend too much money with parts you won't use. The first step when we changed from drawing at a board to the 3D situation in the company in the 90s of the last century, we could see that the mistakes were reduced. And therefore, if you can reduce with VR technologies, with the use of VR technology, I would suppose in the industry you will reduce more mistakes, and that makes it very cost effective. And it gives you a good feeling for all colleagues in a group that they will understand what is going on. And therefore, for the purpose of teaching or teaching students, you will get them together and you will not lose the persons. And there is there's one other advantage I see what Ted even told is, if you have a university facility, you should offer such techniques for students. And we could see that we have in Germany especially more students this year, about 70% that last year in mechanical engineering, where all over Germany the interest in mechanical engineering is going nearly to zero, because it's a strong and a heavy study, and therefore the visibility or the immersion will help to understand a little bit more the technique, especially for younger persons who will come to the university. So it's more or less a mixture of all these items I could mention here, and we have the experience that even after 1 year, where we have about 100 sessions in the cave, the young persons are very glad to have another side of view into parts or in the geometry of components.
Yeah, definitely many advantages to these sort of technologies. Maybe without further ado, Gert-Jan, would you like to go? I can remind you the question: what made you get involved with caves and with immersion and these sort of technologies? Okay.
Your micro on?
Yeah. Oh, I see we have a problem with the sound. Maybe so that we don't lose any time, we can go back to you just right after Natasha's presentation. And now it's time for our last presentation today. It is Natasha is joining us from Coventry University, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, everybody. Apologies that I was late. Schoolgirl error in that being from the UK, I assume that everything revolves around us, and 2 p.m. to me means 2 p.m. UK time. So apologies, but I'm really glad that I could join at this stage. Apologies that I haven't been able to hear earlier speakers, and also because I'm speaking to you and looking at my slides. If you could keep an eye, please, Pippa, on the questions and shout out any questions. So I'll try and make this a little quicker because I'm aware that we are running out of time a little bit. So I'm Dr. Natasha Taylor. I'm curriculum lead for simulation at quite a large university in the centre of the UK. And this is our cave experience. And it is a collaboration between our school, which is the School of Health and Care, and our College of Engineering, Environment and Science. So we have a 3-sided cave in health and a power wall, just one wall in engineering. So I'm just going to talk about our cave experience. It's opened fairly recently, autumn 24, and we're going to roll it out over the academic year 24-25, but it's open and being used, but the initial evaluation is going on over the year. So we are a large undergraduate, postgraduate health school. We have 3,000 plus learners in a range of health and care disciplines. And what we did is we just converted 2 large classrooms. We converted the classrooms into one large space, and we're utilizing bespoke software that was created especially for this project, plus the medical software that we're already using, and we made sure that we could use it in the cave. Now I've got a very long video here that I'll shorten completely so that we don't waste too much time. But this just gives you an overview of what it looks like. It's just a standard cave, 3-sided cave. But we, as you can see, have tracking and stereoscopic viewing. So that's why you can see the background moving a little bit, because obviously it's tracking the person who is leading the simulation there. It's sort of surrounded by people there because that's just us learning how to use the kit. So you can see we have a context configurator. We can add bits to the scene, objects to the scene, people to the scene, and it's tracking that person walking in the front. They have tracking on their stereoscopic glasses. So as well as this environment, we have a number of bespoke environments. So it's not, obviously in health, it's not just hospitals, it's a range of health and care settings. But there we go, this gives you an idea of one of them. We have a whole load of, we have outside environments, street environments, home environments, factory environments, a whole range. So as well as tracking, we also have haptics. Force feedback haptics used, which I'll show you a little bit about in a moment, but here you can see a street view. These have bespoke animations in it, so we can have people collapsing, cars crashing into other cars, all sorts of wonderful things. We can also just have object viewers. So for our health students particularly, they'll maybe want to look at parts of anatomy, etc. So this just gives you a bit of an idea. I'm going to forward this on quickly because I know we're running out of time. I mentioned about the tracking. So this gives you an idea of how the tracking works. And we use this specifically for things like patient assessment. So if we are listening to a patient's chest, auscultating a patient's chest, the trackers are on the stethoscope so that we know if students are tracking where to put the stethoscope correctly and where to take pulse in different parts of the body. So patient assessment. So you can see the stereoscopic glasses there, and you can see the tracking there. And this was created for us, with us as collaboration as a School of Health. So you can see useful for a range of health and care students. Whizzing through here, what's the future for us? Well, we're going to continue the creation of content. We're going to increase our haptic use. We found that incredibly useful, and enhance our streaming ability. So we're a large global university, so it's really important students in other campuses can, obviously we can't bring them all into the cave, but get a bit of an idea of some of the content. And of course, the ongoing evaluation or research, so we are a research university, and to continue to collaborate internally and externally. Thank you for that very quick whistle-stop tour. Any questions? I'm just going to leave my contact details up there. Please do speak up if you have any questions for me. So I'm Dr. Natasha Taylor. You can contact me, natasha.taylor@coventry.ac.uk. And I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Natasha. And not a problem. We're just very happy to have you here. Don't worry at all. That's great. Does anyone have any questions for Natasha? Either in the chat or feel free to just unmute yourselves, whatever is easiest.
I think they were so flabbergasted at such a quick whistle-stop tour of Coventry University's cave that they're still spinning.
No, I actually personally have a question just from what you were talking about at the end with what you're looking to do going forward. And you were talking about sort of increasing streaming capacity and things like this. So you've not got another cave in another, it's not one of those kind of connecting two caves. So like, how do you envision that kind of?
Yes, not at the moment. Yeah. We don't have multiple caves globally. However, the streaming is, so we stream currently. And streaming from a cave sounds very simple. You just put a camera in the cave. But of course, stereoscopic that if you had seen the video, you'll see it looks a bit fuzzy in the background because, of course, we're seeing it stereoscopically in the cave, but it's configured, the piece of software is configured that it flattens out that stereoscopicness. Forgive me, I'm a clinician, not an engineer. So it can be seen elsewhere non-stereoscopically. Having said that, if we have another cave, we can then alter that so you can see it stereoscopically. In terms of things like haptics transference, when we say expand streaming, that's what we mean, because at the moment we can't, you feel something in one cave, and in our cave in Singapore, you need to be able to feel it as well. We're still ironing that out, but I think that's certainly the way of the future.
Yeah, but you've only just started, right? Like it's very new for you.
Absolutely. Autumn 2024. So yes, really just a couple of months ago at the start of the academic year. Absolutely. This is very new. No,
it's really, really nice. And do you have a lot of different types of students using it? Or is it quite
huge range of students? I, as I said, we're a school of health and care. We have just about every health profession there. But we also invite our other students in. So we have our engineering. So I know that we have some engineers on the call. So we have our engineers come in and do sorts of clever things with bits of engines and take it apart, which is absolutely wonderful. Our sports science, I'm thinking recently, our sports science students have used it, looking at different parts of the anatomy. Our forensic psychology and forensic science students, so in terms of crime scenes and exciting things like that. So the whole idea is, in my presentation, I talked a lot about collaboration. The whole idea is this should be available for as many different learners as possible. This isn't just about nurses or just about paramedics. It's about all our learners getting something rich from their time with us.
Yeah, and it's research and learning, right? It's kind of both.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm an academic and I'm also a researcher. So absolutely, those go hand in hand. So I sit in a research centre. So as we know, the evidence always helps to propel new, exciting innovations like this. So so a plea to anybody out there from other universities, if you would like to collaborate, please do get in touch. natasha.taylor@coventry.ac.uk.
Yeah, perfect. And it's on your slides, right? Because I was going to say we are
absolutely
go around everyone.
I know it's very whizzy. I will absolutely share those. I'm going to take the videos out because they're huge, but absolutely, I'll put my contact details. Please do get in contact.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you very much, Natasha.
Pippa, just one quick question from Dominic. Could you maybe elaborate on the interplay between individual stereoscopic glasses and a social immersive space?
So it's sort of this is really interesting, Dominic. So again, you didn't see the full, so I felt I've had to whiz over a little bit. So we have individual stereoscopic views, and we have multiple, I think it's 20 stereoscopic views. Obviously, you can't have multiple stereoscopic views and tracking, because it could obviously only track one person at a time, because there are too many people in there, and it'll alter the tracking. So the stereoscopic view, you either one person and track, or you have multiple people seeing things stereoscopically. So stereoscopic versus tracking, one person versus 20 people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Natasha. Dominic, does that answer your question? Yes, yes, it does. Now, we promised Andre that we'll get back to his question, which was, so at the University of Groningen, they started moving away from caves and onto 3D theaters. And so the question is, what do you think about this migration? And is it something that you also see at your institutions, or you're exploring both avenues and you're kind of branching out? So maybe that would be an interesting question for you. So maybe if we can start with Theodore. I know that at the University of Michigan you have extensive, you have extended reality options, and so maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, we have I hate to, can you repeat the question? It was a little long. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So you remember from Gert-Jan presentation, he was mentioning that they did have the caves, but they didn't see the interest, so they moved towards different technologies. And so the question is, what is happening at your institution? Do you see moving away from caves, or do you see it as not in competition with each other, but as an additive, as a different thing and a standalone thing?
I definitely see it as an additive because it has so many advantages over head mount displays. It does not replace head mount displays. We cannot have a class of 40 people in the cave, which we regularly have with our head mount displays. Over here we have 31 MetaQuest Pro head mounts, and through that door we have our cave, and they're adjacent spaces. The same software runs in both places, so when people want to bring stuff into the cave, I'll actually sit down with them first at a head mount display, and I'll help them get it loaded in the software there. And then I tell them once it's here, because they have 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week access to that space, they can come in, develop their models, get it loaded in the software, and then it's only 15 minutes to get it from there into the cave. So this sort of leads to that. Some people are shy about that. Because other universities, some universities set a very high bar for getting things into a cave. You know, if it's locked away in engineering or physics or something, and you're an artist and you want access to the cave, you assume you've never heard of it, or if you have heard of it, you assume it's off limits or something. And so I'm always actively marketing this thing because people are sort of shy about it. We do tours a lot. We do open houses. We try to attract people. And it's open to any department on campus. Artists have the same access to it that mechanical engineers or physicists or mathematicians or anybody else. And so, yeah, we see it as complementary. Obviously, you know, people can look at the cost of that and say, wow, for the cost of that cave, we could have bought, you know, 1,000 head mount displays or something. But it's not just the head mount display, it's the computer to drive it, it's the desk space to put it in. And in the end, with so much learning online now, you know, the university rubs its hands at what is the value proposition for a brick and mortar university? Why should people be paying a lot of money to come to this university? One of the reasons is to get access to something like that, because they don't have to pay this tuition to get access to one of these, right? You can buy this for yourself and use it in your basement, but it's much less social. Everybody who goes in there, it's like trying to describe the color red to a person who's colorblind, or, you know, describe the taste of a mango to somebody who's never tasted a mango. They don't know what it is until they go in there. And so we're always trying to bring people in, and it's always an eye opener once they get immersed in that, and somebody's in there with them, equally immersed, and they can see each other as humans, not as avatars. So there are huge advantages to that. It doesn't replace this, but they're complementary, part of an ecosystem of extended reality.
Yeah. Jeroen?
That it's I completely agree with Ted. I do think for us it's important that we have a good innovation strategy, implementation strategy, because we really need to plan ahead to make sure that the immersive room is used. For the next few months, it's completely booked, but we need other faculties to enter. We want to invite more teachers, more students. So that needs a good strategy. But I also see it as one technology adjacent to another on a sort of continuum. I don't think it's So those are my thoughts. Yeah, I agree with that.
Wilhelm?
It's the same from me. I really agree to Ted. In Detroit, I think it's very important to prepare models which can later on put into the cave, just to make clear that groups have this social, let me say, event just to understand what is going on. So the beginning of a model for our students will be to use head-mounted displays to prepare their models, to prepare their examine work, and later on they can stand into the cave and can present this. This is a step that is very important. I think in future we will have both. We will have a cave and we will have the head-mounted displays. It may be that the immersion will be better in the glasses, in the head-mounted displays, I suppose. But we invested high technique beamers from Baco, this 3-chip beamers, just to make clear that we are prepared for the next 10 years to have this high immersion in the cave. Otherwise, it may be that the future will shift a little bit to these glasses, to the head-mounted displays. But if you want to teach persons that you said that they pay a lot of money just to study at your destination, we have a free university model, so the study is not cost effective, but on the hand, just to see that the university itself can offer such a technique is very important. And as I mentioned a couple of minutes before, we are very competing between the universities who will have the best students, especially in mechanical engineering here. What's very important for Germany in design of parts, and therefore the cave itself is, for my opinion, one of the solutions where you can see at the end of your design and of all these components how the technique will come out. And then you can use the cave for other applications that we will perhaps see in 5 years. So if you plan a new factory, you can put all the parts in the factory to produce components together, and you can walk through the cave. That's a new kind of design. Up so far, you can do it with your CAD terminal, but you cannot communicate to your colleagues who will perhaps come from a bank or from a bank of investment, or who will come from the marketing or from the production, or even the workers, or to put all these robots and parts together just to plan a street of manufacturing components. This will change the work, and therefore it's cost effective to use a cave at all in this process. But it's an understanding. So for my opinion, I have written down, first of all, ladies, you have here a perfect organization of, let me say, come all interesting persons with cave use together. I would suggest just to have an exchange of database, who's working in which field of cave. Even my daughter now, she is working in the field as a psychologist, just to make new training programs with persons. And this new university project, I was really surprised when she stepped into this project. I think it's very interesting to figure all these applications together, just to see what kind of options we will have in this new technique. And it may be that we should, or I think it's very sensible to stay in contact together, just to see, perhaps in 1 or 2 years, how will this turn out.